G'day everybody, my name is Elliot Waters and you're listening to the Dysregulated podcast. As always, thank you for tuning in. Today's episode, I'll tell you, I'm so glad that I'm posting this episode because it means everybody, ladies and gentlemen, Elliot is back in therapy. How good's that? My Therapy Reflections 2. I remember when I did the first Therapy Reflections episode, which was like months ago, I was like, yeah, every fortnight, I'll pump one of these out. This is great. I'll be in therapy all the time and all this. And you may have noticed that there hasn't been too many of these episodes, and that is because I haven't been in therapy. So it's a great feeling to be back in therapy now. I'm very excited and I'm very optimistic because the first appointment with my new therapist went pretty bloody well. I'll say this, I've been to a few therapists, psychologists now over the years, and I have never walked away from the first initial appointment with as much sort of, hope, I guess, as what I did the other day. It's very exciting. I'm trying not to get too carried away, but we only very lightly touched on, what's going on and stuff, but we did a bit of a, sort of wanted to figure out what approach we're going to take, and she, and that's important, she had similar ideas to me. For those that are really keen on the potty, who may really know my story, because I'm sure people won't have remembered this, but my favourite sort of therapy for me personally has been internal family systems therapy. Not particularly well known, but it's a great therapy. It's the therapy that allowed me to really tap in to that 16-year-old loose cannon self. When I talk about the 16-year-old, pushing me to do impulsive things and things that maybe you look back on and think, geez, that was a bit dumb. A lot of that is driven by this 16-year-old sort of version of the self within, and I was able to pick up on that when I was doing internal family systems therapy previously, but unfortunately I didn't stick with it long enough to actually, make some changes. I will talk about that first. So we were talking briefly about sort of the history I've had with therapy and all this stuff and everything we've covered, and I was pretty into it. I remember sitting there thinking, this is good. I'm engaged. She seems engaged because, I'm always hyper vigilant of other people's sort of how they're reacting towards what I'm saying, and me being me is looking for any little excuse, any chink in the armour that might suggest that this therapist isn't going to be the one for me. And I couldn't really find any, which is so cool. But at one point we were talking about internal family systems and I mentioned the 16-year-old self and about the loose cannon and all this, and then I'll tell you, I've never had this before. It was like someone just booted me and I was crying. I was crying, and as soon as I brought up the 16-year-old self, I could feel the 16-year-old self within me sort of, I know this sounds weird, but I'm telling you, it's a great therapy. My 16-year-old self sort of come to the forefront and really be listening in to what the therapist was saying. Like it was like I know it's weird. I swear to God, I'm not psychotic, but it's like the younger version of me that's still there because I've never been able to grow up from when I was 16. I'm still a 16-year-old at heart. Sort of connected with my therapist in a way, and I was crying, and it was because after meditating on it later, because the 16-year-old self was like, hey, we've got a chance here. We can do things differently. Because one thing that she said, which is very true in IFS, which is you don't look at any of because there's more parts to me than just a 16-year-old. There's more going on, but that was the only one I was able to tap into previously. But none of these parts are doing or wanting to do harm. They're just trying to protect you. So the 16-year-old is trying to protect me from being ripped off about being a loser by drinking more and doing more substances and all that sort of stuff. Not that I drink anymore. That's sort of how that all dynamic sort of played out. Wasn't doing it to ruin my life. I was doing it so people wouldn't rip me off behind my back, basically, because that's a massive insecurity of mine, which is going to get straightened out hopefully once and for all now. And that was sort of the hope. That was the feeling that I and my 16-year-old self sort of got. It was like, hey, hang on. I can actually feel where change can be made here. And this is just the initial appointment. I barely went into specifics about my story. We spoke about all my different diagnoses and all the medications and, how after a while they just pile up and don't really help and just muddy the waters. So what we're doing is going to approach it, or what she's doing. I'm not doing it. That's the other thing I said, make sure I don't control, the course of therapy, because too often previously I've sort of guided things down the way I think I believe it should go. And I haven't got the results I'm looking for, probably because I'm not actually as good at this psychology stuff as I think I am, and maybe I should leave it to the experts. I don't know. So I said to her, please come down hard on me, and you tell me which way to go, and I'll do my best to follow, and we'll see where we end up. Now I've completely forgotten what I was saying. Oh, this ADHD just doesn't. What was I saying? Yeah, the 16-year-old. So although I'm glossing over heaps of information here, but hopefully this ramble is somewhat coherent. But the real big thing I took away was, that me or the 16-year-old self and I, the loose cannon and I, who is me, a part of me, and is only there to protect me, we both sort of come away with this feeling that, hey, this could be the opportunity. Oh no, it was huge. It was so significant. I'm telling you, I sat there and I was crying. I said I couldn't talk. I was like, and I said to her, I don't know where this has come from. This is crazy. We barely touched on the surface, and I'm like crying already. And she said, yeah, that's because that's where we need to go. And I was like, yes, it is. I've been so scared to go there and confront, what's down in that dark well of my psyche. You got to go to the places you don't want to go to find the answers that you seek. There's no two ways about that. You got to go to the dark places to bring about the light. And it really became apparent that is one of the dark places I have to go. But the hope is that I might be able to go there, and instead of going there and completely falling apart like would usually happen if I get completely caught up in this whole comparisons thing, people rip me off, etc., and then doing some really risky things. Instead, maybe it can be approached in a really sort of healthy way and bring some light to that sort of darkness and let a bit of that stuff go so I can move on, because there is so much of me that is still stuck at age 16, and God, I hope this is the time when I'll be able to sort of let go and move forward, which I desperately need to do. It's interesting. So my therapist is a female. This is the first time I've had a therapist who is a female. Not because I've got anything against, women or anything. It's just that, I don't know, a lot of my issues are romantic related, I suppose, relationships. So, I've always felt it'd be a bit awkward talking to a female about issues I have with females. But this time I found her online on Psychology Today. So I was looking for a therapist, psychologytoday.com, that is. I was looking for a therapist in Newcastle that did IFS, and I came across her. And straight away I was like, yes, we need to do something different, because I've been doing this whole therapy thing for years and we've got nowhere. Let's try something different. Just do it, Elliot. Just go for it. Go with a female. Who knows? It might bring this different perspective, or this different way of this different authority, because psychologists are important, not so much because they tell you the things that you need to do to sort of get yourself fixed up, because we all know that really deep down anyway. We all know what's going on, what dumb things that we're doing that we shouldn't be, and some of the really good things that you're not doing that you should be. We know this. We can meditate on this and come up with those answers pretty quickly. But the role of the psychologist, as I see it, and as far as my research and training is concerned, is that the idea is to be that sort of authority that sort of backs up the claims and keeps people accountable and that sort of stuff. It's not about discovering what it is the person needs to fix themselves, because they already know it. It's just about empowering the person to believe that they can do it and to hold that person a little bit accountable as well. And I've got a feeling a tough woman telling me what to do is going to hold me very accountable. And it's exciting. I really connected with her well. It was, as I said, it's only the introductory appointment, and I went in there, to be honest, with some pretty low sort of hope because, I don't know, like I said, I've been doing this for years, but I walked out of there, there was this very significant weight. Now, maybe the idea is to get the weight off, but at this point I think I need to carry the weight for a bit, all of the weight, and sort of, with the help, though, of her, and that's what I think is going to happen. This burden that I've got, I'm going to actually confront it properly and be like, right, what are we actually dealing with here? And then hopefully together we will be able to slowly but surely, whittle it away. So very exciting. It's interesting too because my referral said, so my GP and I have had this theory and still do have this theory that psychologists and psychiatrists have been ducking me because I'm too complex and, I'm in the too hard basket. And the referral that she had said, oh, Elliot suffers from anxiety. She goes, okay, so we're talking about anxiety. I was like, yeah. Val said, look, there's like a couple of other things going on. It's not just generalised anxiety. there's the social anxiety, there's the OCD. And then I brought up the borderline personality and we spent a bit of time on that. And she pretty much said, holy dooly, there's a bit more under the lid here than I thought. And I was like, well, that's how I had to get you, unfortunately. But no, she seemed, I don't know, sort of excited by the challenge and was just so positive. It was like, yep, internal family systems will help with that. Yep, we're going to do EMDR, which I'll do an episode on EMDR, which is this sort of new revolutionary way of doing therapy. It's pretty cool to do with it's similar to like REM sleep, mimicking REM sleep and then unlocking memories. And anyway, it's pretty cool. And I've done a bit of it as well. And it's been quite helpful, but again, haven't pursued it properly. But this is the first time I've had a therapist that can do both, which is so cool. But I did let her know there's a few more things going on, and there was a bit of a look. Again, remember, I'm being hyper vigilant. I'm looking for any sort of little sign that something's, I could tell she was like, oh, geez, okay, there's a bit here. But I don't know. I'm excited. She said she's excited. She goes, she asked me, how often do you want to come? And I said, look, be straight with me. How often do you think I need to be here? And she goes, to be honest, I really would like to see you weekly. I was like, yeah, I expected that. But, psychology in Australia, or psychology probably in most places as far as I gather, is not cheap. This stuff, isn't cheap. And I'm not making $1 million. I'm doing my best, but, I'm not flush with cash, as we know. If you've been listening to the show, you'll know exactly how tight my budgets get at times. And so the deal is, at this point, I'm going to go fortnightly. But I'm telling you, if this turns out to be as good as, I hope it is, which is life-changing, like, I will find the way to have the money to go weekly, and let's get this done. And that's what I walked out there. It was like, okay, here's somebody who has the tools in their arsenal, which is exactly what I need, and someone who's willing to take me on and actually have a go here, which is so amazing. But like, this is the time. This is it now. We've got to lock in. I'll spend thousands of dollars on this. I don't care. But if it's working towards the future that I want to be living in, if it helps me build my dream, which has slowly but surely over the years been whittled away to next to nothing, if I'm able to get that hope again and actually, see a happy future where I'm fulfilled and, actually just enjoying life. I'm getting a bit teary now. Geez, what's going on? But it makes sense. This is serious stuff, Like I when I meditate on my inner child, and I said this to her as well, I'm like, I just keep apologising for screwing up and being like, this isn't the future young little Elliot that you deserved. And I'm so bloody sorry that I've dropped the ball here. And I feel like, although she challenged that way of thinking, but still, I feel like this is the chance to maybe pick that ball up again and really give it a go. I don't know, I've got a good feeling. I've never walked out of a first appointment feeling this much hope. And you got to remember too, I'm like I said, I'm at my wit's end with this. Like, I had very low expectations, and the fact that I walked out of there, feeling pretty good is amazing. I think big tick. Another interesting part though is that so I told her, so I got to be careful. I do want to tell you specifics about what I talk about, and I will in the future therapy reflections episodes. But there's some things that need to be spoken about, or that I did briefly touch on, but needs to be worked through more so I understand it better, so I can explain it properly and accurately. So I think there's some, not memories that are been maybe misconstrued, and there might be, because I don't know, it's hard. It's hard, and I just need to make sure I know what's sort of gone on and what's happening before I can sort of say it, if that makes sense, because my story includes lots and lots of other people, like all of our stories do. Lots of people have lots of input in each other's lives, and I need to just really make sure I'm understanding of different people's inputs, and don't say things that maybe isn't accurate that I find out late. I just need to be. But a little hint is not a hint, but she said she wants to take a very trauma-informed focus with this, which was very, very validating. But I will probably leave it at that for now, but I will say more, but I need to sort of get my head around it first. But a trauma-informed approach is something different, and I know about trauma-informed because I've read about it and studied it at uni and stuff, but when she was sort of explaining how she would operate within that paradigm, it was like, here we go, this is it, that's it. So the big three, I think, of trauma-informed internal family systems therapy along with EMDR therapy, I don't know, it just sounds like the winning combination to me, and I'm very, very excited. So anyway, the next one is in a fortnight, the next appointment. I was going to do this straight after the appointment, and I want to do them like literally maybe even record on my phone in the car as soon as I finish the appointment. So it's all fresh and it's all there, and that was my plan. But the appointment was a few days ago, but I left there and, there was a lot to sort of sift through and yeah, so to begin with, I needed a few days to sort of, again, wrap my head around things. But in future, moving forward, it is my expectation that I will be able to do these episodes just as soon as I leave, basically. So it's raw, it's emotional, it's vulnerable, it's all there. Because you guys know me, there's no secrets here. There's no secrets with Elliot Waters. I will tell you everything and anything that's going on in my head if you wish. And I still would love the opportunity. I don't know if this is even legal, but I would like to record one of these therapy sessions and show you, this is what Elliot's like in therapy. Because, I don't know. I'm not ashamed. I'm not embarrassed, whatever. And maybe it'll be insightful for people who haven't gone to therapy, but maybe have thought about it. But that's a bit further down the track, and obviously there's some loopholes I need to sort of sort out if that's possible. But at the very least, moving forward, the therapy reflections I want to be recording me reflecting on therapy that has just occurred. So today was a bit different because I need to get my head around a few things, but moving forward, that is the hope, because there is no other podcast on the internet. There is none that goes to the vulnerable depths of the human psyche than this one, the Dysregulated podcast. If anyone can find a potty and anyone who goes deeper into this stuff than me, I'm telling you, let me know, and I'll get them on the show and interview them, or vice versa, because that person must be absolutely unbelievable. But seriously, there's open book. I want this to be, this word I keep saying all the time, insightful, but I do. And the way to make these episodes, these reflections, as insightful for people as I can, is to go as deep and be as raw and on the spot, timely with it as well. And it's good for me too, because, especially with my memory at the moment, which is so bad, still so bad. like I'll disassociate for 50 minutes of the hour consult and be like, oh, geez, what did I even say? So me afterwards, sort of reinforcing what was going on by telling you guys the whole story and everything that's happened will be helpful as far as, getting these things to stick into my head and stay there, so I can understand it and, actually do good with the information and the experience of being in therapy, because there's no point disassociating the whole time and not actually remembering anything that's gone on. So this will be good to reinforce, that sort of stuff within my head as well. So it's going to be great. My therapy reflections, this is the second, but there's plenty more coming. I'm very, very excited. So anyway, if you've got any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram at elliot.t.waters. There's a new feature now with the podcast that my hosting people have come up with, which is pretty cool, which is where it's actually called, I'm just on the website now because I've only just turned this function on. It's called fan mail. Yes, fan mail. Now, no, I'm not up myself that much. That's just what they called it. I can't change it. But what you'll notice is on the episode descriptions at the top, there'll be a link that says something like, send me a message. And you can send me a text message from your phone to my phone via my Buzzsprout hosting people. So if you've got anyone wants to reach out, I think it's text message. I don't know. Click it and someone send me a message and we'll see if it works, because I haven't had anyone do it yet. But yeah, like I said, I keep repeating myself, but I've had a lot of modafinil today. I am running. I don't know if you can tell. We're up to 21 minutes and I'm flying. I don't think I've had a breath yet. The fan mail thing, what was I saying? Yeah, if someone wants to send one through, because I haven't actually received one yet, just to see how it works. But yeah, to make this and to keep this the most fair income, real, genuine podcast on the internet, it needs to be almost full accessibility to me and my head. So if you've got any questions about anything that's going on in my brain or my experiences or anything psychology related, Instagram has typically been the place to do it, but you can now send it through this fan mail sending, link thing that's in the bio descriptions of every episode. So there you go. All right. Thank you, everybody. Fair income. I need some water and I need to lay down and do some deep breathing. Thank you as always for listening. I'm really excited about these episodes. I think these are going to be great and it's going to be good. And I'm excited because I think I'm going to have hopefully some good news to report. I think this process may work out pretty well. Anyway, I'm rambling on. That's enough from me. Thank you for listening. If you're enjoying the show, feel free to like, subscribe. Please give me a great rating and you can share around with your mates. And as I said, you can follow me on Instagram at elliot.t.waters, or you can use this new fan mail function to reach out and touch base as well. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one. And I'll see you next time here on the Dysregulated podcast.